feel gravity working on the body. And notice if there's anything that's skew or not vertically aligned, then it makes it hard. It's draining to stand because now gravity is pulling on me, whatever that might be. Some people might be a little bit, to exaggerate, whether here, here, but to the tiniest level, tiniest version, if we're not vertically aligned, then we're having to fight against gravity all the time. We align our skeleton better and better, more and more, basically vertical. Then we can just hang out and gravity works directly through the bones and we don't have to fight it. The bones are designed, made to withstand gravity, to support us against gravity. If they're aligned, then we don't really feel that pull so much. So when you're standing here, feel where parts are really being pulled, or it's kind of hard to stand in certain parts. That's probably because you are rolled forward or rolled back or tilted. If I can align my bones more and more vertically, I just hang out and the tissues just hang off the bones. And that gets finer and finer in terms of our ability to sense what's going on and to adjust. If it's subtler, finer, finer. At first, we're very blocky with our awareness, very crude. We can't get very deep into our tissues, or we can't get to our bones with our awareness. Our thing isn't really developed. But as we develop that, we can get finer and finer with our awareness and our adjustments. And each out breath is a releasing breath. So each time we exhale, we get another chance to consciously release, holding in, some holding up, releasing tensions physically, mentally on the out breath. Let's just do commencement for our warm up and just turning sideways. So again, you see that it's a flowing forward, not up. If we do up, pulling up, and our shoulder plane gets lifted and separated from the torso, and we're pulling in and up. So not thinking up, flowing forward. And so the arms are pulled long, the shoulder joints are even coaxed open as we flow forward. Again, as if we were in water, arms just flowing and floating away from us. Not thinking up, just letting the hands and arms float away, float away, float away, just like we're in water. Arms just drift away from the body. And that up will happen for us. That's the wu wei. Shoulder joints were open. And then we just think of the hard elbow points, and that's enough. Drag the arms back down through the water. And then we're going to add a little rising and sinking to warm up the legs and the knees and the ankles. Of course, the knees bend forward directly over the feet, not pinching in at all. The feet have a full contact with the ground, the sole of the foot, full contact, except for the arch. So hollow in the arch, because if we're touching down with the arch of the foot, probably rolling in. Knees are pinching in. So now, those of you with more experience, the arm is initiated forward by the pressure on the bottoms of the feet or the ground. The ground pressure, ground force. So as you drop the hips, point the tailbone, that creates a little increased pressure, a little bit increased pressure in the feet. Again, like jumping into the scale, the weight scale. I can make myself weigh like 300 pounds. 350 pounds, if I push actively down, the ground pushes up with as much kinetic force as I put down. And so just a little drop, just hanging the tailbone, dropping the hips, I can activate just that little increased pressure to send the arms forward. And relaxing down through the elbow points. So even that initial drifting forward and up, not doing it with the shoulders eventually, it's from the ground force pressure on the bottoms of the feet. I just accentuate that pressure, and that can be done slow motion. Just lengthening the lower back is enough to send the tailbone and the weight down. And the sending of the tailbone and the weight down, the lengthening of the lower back, sending that down, pushes the arms forward. Positive pressure. And positive pressure is called pung in our Tai Chi work. Releasing the abdomen. So as you let the weight relax even more through the legs and feet, there's a return wave or the ground force through the ground path. A return wave that moves up through the body and out through the arms. And waving up through the body, and it's good if you can actually get that connection directly from the feet to the arms. So it moves through the body, but it doesn't have to move through the body before it gets to the arms. You can make that direct connection through an intentional vector. So it's not that it has to go propagate through here and then through my arms. You can make that direct connection. Pressing to the ground can send the arms out directly. And so again, each time I relax down, increase the pressure on the bottom of my feet, the return wave is what keeps me lengthened and vertical. Each time I release through the hips and into the feet, it supports me. There's that return wave running through the body, propagating upward through the body that keeps me aligned, vertical, and actually opening more and more. Releasing the abdomen is always helpful and allowing a cleaner, easier flow of energy and force. Or this area is a major junction, which really means usually a major blockage area, it's dammed up. So a juncture that we can open, we open it to a great degree if we again flatten the lower back or hang the tailbone and release the abdomen, release the muscles, the tissues here, let the abdomen expand and open. And then whatever force is available to move up through the body, that return wave is allowed to move further through the body and more freely to align the spine, lengthen it, and send the arms out. So try a few times where you're consciously releasing the abdomen. As you breathe in, really let it expand and fill and open. We become this vessel becomes filled, expands as you breathe in from the ground up. And that forms the vertical alignment and sends the arms forward. Releasing the torso, the abdomen.
So can I just ask, in that releasing, is it really like the whole cylinder of the torso? Like we focus on the abdomen because it is what kind of holds, we tend to hold up. But is it, we in the park, you sort of said we want to build on what we did, we did a lot of that just dropping, like the free fall. It's trying to, from stillness, start the free fall of that internally. Is that what you're saying, or are you saying something else?
Okay, so I'm hearing two things there, so I'll address the first thing that I thought I clicked into. Yes, it's the entire volume is a good term, uber volume. So eventually this whole thing becomes empty and hollow, the empty vessel, so it can be filled. So that return wave actually moves up through this whole conduit. The whole thing becomes a conduit. Now, I'm not sure if, can you repeat, well, again, let me know if I haven't touched upon that directly or enough. And then if you can give me a bit more on that, the last part that you said, in terms of the internal dropping.
Yeah, I guess, we were practicing quite a mechanical dropping. I guess what I'm understanding is like you're wanting increasingly internally to have that free fall moment as the initiation for this. Like, because what I notice in myself is this trying to remove I'm somehow giving my arms a mechanical jump start, and then something happens to actually let the drop create the arms. But I wanted to check if that's part of your assumption of this, because of course what it looks like you're doing is just standing still and your arms are
Okay.
moving. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's, yeah, it's fairly internal because you're not seeing me do a drop, or I'm doing it intentionally, and then physically it's happening, but it's fairly small because I'm just doing it with feeling and intention. So that's a good point to bring up. So if I was to make it bigger, right now, the mechanics, the action is I breathe in and drop the hips, and that pushes me up. So if you think of a balloon bouncing off the floor, I drop, and I float down, and then I actively breathe in, and what we're doing before is sending the breath directly down through the feet into the ground. We don't have to do that yet. You can if that was really something that you could access nicely, you can do that right away. So how I approached it today was just dropping the tailbone and the weight to the legs to the feet, and that return wave. So I press down, that pops me up, which translates to out for the arm. So pressing down sends me up, and I breathe in, and I breathe out, and I just release down, hang down, and try to be very, very, have a sense of vertically just sinking down through your body. And then I activate and re-amplify the pressure in the bottom of the feet by dropping the hips and tailbone. Drop the hips and tailbone and breathe in. And that pressure moves up through my body. Free fall of my hips, create more pressure in the bottoms of the feet. And that pushes up through my body. And breathing in expands me, and that pressure coming up from the floor sends the arms out. and then I release and relax down. Just try to make that a very sharp vertical conduit. Not just relaxing down in a wandering kind of way, but a very sharp channel. That will happen eventually. Just to give you a seed in the mind that it's not just relaxing down, that there is a very sharp channel or avenue through which that dropping happens eventually. Now, maybe we can move right into more of the intentional. We might be ready for that. Where I'm not gonna, in a big mechanical, physical way, rock the tailbone and hips and be pushed up. But inside, let that fall and hang. So I just let these muscles go. So the hip can just fall. Now, as the body is cultivated, it becomes softer and more open, softer and clarified. Just the intentional direction is enough to have all that action occur. When we're still at a place, and everybody's at a place at first and for a while, well, we're dense because we're holding up and holding on. Then intentionally releasing the hips and intentionally dropping down, just the intention direction down. You may not feel that reach the feet. You may not feel, maybe you feel it a little bit part way, but it doesn't reach the feet. Or maybe nothing happens because everything is still habitually, chronically hanging on. And that's okay, that's totally normal. But eventually, just the downward intention, there is this cascading effect as if you're actually doing this. So just the intention down releases the lower back and sacrum into the feet. And so that's might be helpful, is that I hesitate using imagination and imagery, but it might be helpful to a certain degree. Better is feeling. Imagining, feeling that your sacrum drops to your feet without doing it physically or not trying to do it physically. Just imagine that your sacrum drops to your feet, and then you might feel that pressure, the change that's caused by that feeling intention, by the intention of dropping your sacrum right into your feet. There's going to be some sort of effect. And that's enough to tap into to cause the rising of the body and the flowing out of the arms. Just dropping my sacrum into my feet. I'll have to wait for that echo. I have to wait for the rebound. I don't want to just, again, think I'm dropping my sacrum into my feet and then physically move my arms. We're back to this idea of patience or a waiting, a type of a waiting for that rebound to occur, for that echo to occur. Okay, I feel like I want to ask for comments or questions at this point. How's that going? I'm saying sacrum dropping to the feet or anything so far. Releasing the abdomen always helps.
Yeah, I think it, what I'm noticing is like the dropping and the sort of a certain release of musculature here.
Yeah.
The corresponding thing that I'm feeling though is, I mean, you talk about, you know, releasing the body means your legs have to do more. Like I'm actually feeling a kind of pliability, I would say, in my hamstrings, in that sense of almost a little bowing from the base of the pelvis to my heels, that feels more elastic.
Mm-hmm.
With that. So you've often talked about like when we release up here, our legs actually have to do more. I'm sort of feeling that, but not in a like a brutally taking on weight way, just a sort of pliable, kind of almost kind of bouncing
Yeah.
sort of way, you know, like within within the form of this movement.
Yeah, very, very good, very good. Yes. So the legs are taking the work in a proper way. And it may or may not be helpful right now, but simply because you're saying it, I'll mention then perhaps one modicum forward, little step forward. Now that you're accessing that quality, that feeling, and noticing that your legs are taking the work, but they're not contracting, they're bowing. So see if you can allow your legs to be emptier, more open, like empty pipes, empty conduit. So it's really good that you're feeling that bowing, that they're taking that work. And just intend or feel for those legs, because you're getting the right alignment and right connections. So now you can release those legs perhaps even a bit more, imagining and feeling that they empty, they open. It makes them an even more effective, efficient conduit. Okay, now maybe we can just let the arm just hang out for a bit. And we'll work that, again, intentional down vector, but now more specifically actively with the breath, the in-breath in this case. So as we know, when we breathe in, we want the abdomen to expand. And then, as you might know, we actually want the entire torso to expand in all directions. Usually we just say abdomen, but really it's all directions, like a big donut tire tube around you. It's all directions. But for our purposes now, we're going to direct it almost completely down. So we're going to translate that expansion mainly downward, right down into the pelvic floor and beyond, through those empty legs, right to the feet, right to the interface line of contact between bottom of the feet and the floor. So just like normally we'll say for basic beginners, breathe in, expand, breathe out, retrace back, breathe in, expand. Well, now breathe in, expand this way. The same avenue, same direction as the dropping of the hip or dropping of the tailbone, except now it's the expansion of the breath, expansion of the tissues of the body from here down. So lower abdomen expands down, pelvic floor is pushed down. What can be very helpful, perhaps, maybe if when you breathe in, really emphasizing the fact that the diaphragm presses down. And that's why there's an increased pressure. That's why there's the pressure down to the pelvic floor. And now with our intention and our feeling, we send that further down through the legs, to the feet. But it might be helpful. Certainly, it definitely is helpful, but maybe not right away. But definitely try this to see if this is accessible now. Breathing in, emphasizing the feeling, the fact and the feeling that the diaphragm flexes down as you breathe in. That's by the way, that's why the abdomen should expand out when you breathe in, because the diaphragm is pressed down, pushing everything out. So if you emphasize that, breathe in, down, downing, downward pressure, pressurization down. And eventually, as the body opens and the imagination gets clearer and stronger, feeling gets clearer and stronger, the body gets more open, released. If there's a direct downward pressurization, and then there's a rebound force or return wave or the ground force, different terms for the same thing, really. So as I breathe in, that just pushes me up. So if I don't do any actual real overt movement, external movement, I can use it to simply keep opening up my spine and keep aligning me vertical and vertical and vertical, vertical, and right up to the back crown. So breathe in, pressurize downward. and feel the return wave coming up through the feet, through the legs, back into the upper body. Okay, so different ways of playing with this, working with this. So we're getting different avenues and angles of working with mind, the brain, and the nervous system and the tissues. So same thing, but slightly different, little added element to it. Breathing out, we're just going to relax down. So kind of breathing out is going to be almost like, also going to be kind of a little rest for the mind. Breathing out, we're going to think as a balloon would think as it empties. But again, try not to collapse or fold. We want that to be a very, very vertical line. But breathing out is simply going to be falling or sinking. And the breathing in, all that pressurization and that downward vector is going to be the reason and the only reason why you might be moving up. So I breathe out, I hang out, and I sink. And I breathe in, I direct it almost 100%, if not 100% down. And that return wave or pressure in the feet is what sends me up. So I'm not doing any other movement. I'm just doing that up and down. But down is just because I'm breathing out and like a balloon emptying. It's easy and natural, the balloon emptying. And breathing in, directing it down, pressurizing it down. And eventually, maybe not right away, but eventually be able to tap into and catch the return wave that will literally propel you up. It's like steam pressure, steam powered. I very much relate this to steam power, locomotive, steam power, and that is pressure. So breathing out, hang out even more, and breathe in and down to pressurize you up. Breathe out is a bit of a rest as well for the attention, and just hang out even more, a little deeper. Breathe in to push you up, but you're not trying to come up, you're trying to pressurize and push down. Coming up is the result. And then see if you can get that up into somewhere into the body, have that out through the arms. So you're getting out towards maybe the Buddha belly level, and eventually you can get it much higher. So holding the tree, eventually through the entire body, through the arms, to a very high level, to any shape you want. But again, it takes a while to be able to bring that through more and higher and higher. Breathe out, just relax, hang out. Breathe in, I inflate, but not just inflate. Specifically now we're doing down, downward direction, downward vector. Sinking chi is a major, major aspects in our Tai Chi development. Sinking the chi. In this case, sinking the breath energy to get that rebound force. So breathing out is just hanging out, releasing, sinking. Breathing in, pressurizing it down. See if you can have that push you up and buoy your arms up. And just go a little bit wider slightly. Sink down to one leg. Breathe in, pressurize down that one leg that you're standing on. It's just like a balloon bouncing off the ground. Buoy you up, and maybe including your arms a little bit. Up and over like a balloon. drifting over, you're filled. And then empty down the other leg. Breathe out, empty. Sink down the other leg. And then breathe in and pressurize down, send you up, maybe buoys the arms out a little bit, sends you up and over. And you're drifting over to the other side because you're filled, you're punged. And then breathing out to sink. And then try to have a sense more and more that you're doing this less and less with any muscle action. It's just the relaxing breathing out. Of course, you naturally sink down, just like a balloon sinking. That's probably the easy part. Breathe out, release. Breathe in, pressurize it down. We have an intentional vector downward through that leg and a return wave pushing you up and over. And eventually it'll be through the arms as well. Again, it takes a lot of patience in the sense that you need to wait for the dynamics to do it for you, rather than thinking it, imagining it, and then doing it yourself and doing it physically. That's not it yet. So it takes a real degree of patience and waiting and not doing, a good amount of not doing, or a very interesting doing to start to happen for you. But it takes a non-doing for this very interesting doing to start to be triggered and to start to be happening for you. And into hold the ball, bow stance, Irving P or wild horse's mane. Breathing in, pressurize down the back leg, sends you up and forward and out through your arms. And again, you can use it breathing out as just kind of a sliding back, like you're sliding downhill. Again, not sloppy, very clear line sliding back and down, back and down. And only because you're breathing in and giving it a direction downward is you are pressed up, propelled up and forward, and also propelling through your arms. And breathing out, releasing, sliding back. Down, pressurizing, buoys you, return wave, pressurizing you up and forward. Okay, coming back to the standing. Breathe in, pressurize down to send you up and expand. Breathe out to release and hang out. Breathe in, pressurize down, push you up and push you out. And breathing out just to hang out and release back.